Tackling the issue of poverty in America, well, you can just look around you and you can see some of the factors that may be um, obvious to you. They might be obvious to the people around you. And our communities are made up of individuals that might have more than unusual circumstances. And that's, I do believe, why there are agencies and programs that are starting to take notice to the poverty in America, because here in Pennsylvania, we have an election coming up, and most of the poor are either somehow incarcerated or end up working in strip clubs or drug dealing. And here's the issue. It's not just the fact that they inherited the issues of America's poverty, but that is the answer for some people. It's like this becomes a way of life. And to demonize them, I think, is unfair and wrong. I do think that it's systemic. There's a huge poverty gap in America. Actually, over 50% of America is poor. And what do you think they're doing? They're turning to drug dealing, stripping, etc. So how do we encourage kids to go to school? Well, especially a school system that has a set of its own problems on a regular basis. Some kids, this is the problems they face: bullying, whether it be at home, whether it be at school. So for a mom that's already struggling, and your kids don't want to go to school because there's bullying going on. So, wow, I mean, already right out of the gate, that's not exactly the answers that a lot of people are looking at. They're like, okay, this is definitely not solving the bigger problems. And I look at some of the people that are putting themselves in front of the education issue. To me, it's really simple. If moms have more time to spend with their kids, because they're the ones that have the most to gain for their kids to earn a degree or education are their parents, at least the ones that I've known, okay? And if I'm looking at these kids in the community and I think that these kids don't even have a mom to sit down and spend time with them, then there's something else that needs to be fixed. Is where is the parents? Why aren't they showing up at the, what do they call the open house? I'm sorry. Teachers will say, well, these parents don't even show up at the parent-teacher conferences. So already the mom is already backed in a corner. She might be working two jobs. Dad might be working. Who knows what the reasons are, but they won't even show up at the parent-teacher conferences. And this is a chief complaint that teachers have, that their parents aren't even involved in what's going on with their kids. So already, right out of the gate, the two things to get you out of poverty is establishing relationships and education. But if our education system's all jacked up, then what are the options for that average person who has to work the two jobs? So obviously these are some of the concerns that are occurring right now. So if kids go in a school bus every day and they see these girls coming out of a strip club that are making a bunch of bank, this is what kids see. They say, okay, that might be the way out. Or they're influenced by the older kids, okay? And the older kids, could be dropouts and they're hustling for drugs. I mean, this is a reality. It's not my reality. It doesn't have to be the reality, but this is a reality, and it spills over into the suburbs. So most people say it starts with the poor neighborhoods. No, most of the people that go into those poor neighborhoods will tell you that most of the people that score, or, want to score. That's just the best word for it. The people that want to score are the ones that have money, or somehow it's whatever. Okay, the problem is, I mean, it's so systematic, and most of the people that are going in jail are the ones that are, getting picked up for these small petty crimes. And to me, we have such a issue with criminal justice right now that it's hard to ignore. When there's children that are being abused because their parents are no longer there because they're putting them in jail, and then these kids end up somehow caught up in the system or caught up in, I don't know, what you pick your poison. There's so many diabolical situations. Most of these people who are looking out for children aren't looking out for them in the long run because they don't really know what to do to fix the problem. And there is not a temporary answer for it. Okay, it takes a long time to raise kids and teach them basic skills and just earning capacity, like just 50 cents for taking out the garbage, something simple like that, chores, not punishing them. I'm going to give them the option if they want to earn 50 cents or $1, because if they're going to earn 50 cents, it's because, basically they're not going to want to settle for that. The advantage is to make $1 over 50 cents, and teaching kids at a younger age, the better. I don't know, it's just better somehow, teaching kids to earn 50 cents here and there to do small chores like garbage and wiping down the counter. They may not do a great job at it, but you're teaching them, and these kids don't have to stay this way. I mean, to me, I don't have kids, but I would just take the initiative, working around the community and just looking at some of the concerns that these kids have. I mean, I've been around it a long time. I've walked in on situations with one little girl. Her mom was a single black woman, and her little girl smiled all the time. And then when she came home, she got beat on a regular basis in urban housing. And I was 21 at the time. So, yeah, there's bigger problems than just poverty, okay? Or you go to that one home where it seems like they abuse this one kid the most, and usually everyone pretends that it doesn't go on, but most of the people in the community know what's up, word of mouth gets around, and it's not something that you can hide. I mean, everybody hears about it to some degree or another. Here, I look at this poverty issue as a couple of layers to it. There's a lot of factors. It's most likely that the mom or dad are absent, and that's the situation we face. Okay, and if the mom disappears and she just checks out and she's not really concerned what happens to her kids, then there's a moral issue there. Okay, to me, it's immoral to ignore, run away, or hide from your children. It doesn't matter what age they are at this point. To me, abandoning your children is abandoning your children, and then only to hear that these agencies or these programs are abusing children. Here in Pennsylvania, everyone knows about these programs, like in the case of Jerry Sandusky, who took advantage of not just the children itself, but the public trust. To me, I'm so angered at what happened, because so many people were taken advantage of. I mean, who would think that a man who, in his position, would be able to get away with what he got away with as long as he did? And it's not just Jerry Sandusky. It's been an issue not only nationwide, but here in Pennsylvania as well. More programs have been exposed for abusing children. I mean, orphan programs, foster care, etc. I'm not going to pretend that there are people that have everybody's best interest. I'm not going to live in this world that everyone's out to help each other. But I also look at the people that do want to do something and change the way we see this, because I can tell you, winning back the public trust is going to be a lot harder. I can't pretend this problem doesn't exist. I can't pretend that every politician promises and they're not delivering. I can't pretend anymore. Most of us are looking at the epidemic and the crimes against children, and it's enormous, and everyone should be pissed off. Everyone. Because it's going to come out of your pocketbook somehow through taxes or whatever. And this is the way to justify it. And that's, to me, outrageous. And we don't want to wait till government has an answer for every problem. That's the whole point. We have to take advantage of the opportunities we have right now to maybe look at some answers and solutions. I'm outraged that anybody wants to think that this is a Social Security issue, or you turn it over to welfare benefits. If you have the earning capacity to help somebody, don't wait for government to fix it or the next food bank. That's what is really happening. People pass this off and wait for some government program to fix it. And it's up to you as an individual. What are you going to do differently? Open up your books and look at what you can do to change it yourself personally. Don't wait for the next welfare system or another incentive program. To me, the greatest incentive for each of us is watching how we go from point A to point B. And point A means, okay, we got a poverty issue, and what are we going to try to do to crack it down on it? We're going to try to fix it, this area, and try to do something to change it. That's what every city council meeting should be about, is how to eradicate poverty and the education deficit in America. Instead of having children at 14 years old think that the way out is to cop for drugs and score or go to the next strip club, That should be the answer. But I know a lot of people will ignore this, but you can go down to your communities and cities and you don't think it's going to affect the suburbs. Well, it's going to affect everybody because the taxes go up in Pennsylvania, not go down. Okay, so I look at Trump's tax plan and I say, okay, this is an opportunity for us to prove ourselves. Are we going to show up? See, while most of us are worried about whether President Trump's going to deliver, it's up to us. This is your chance to fix it. What can you do? Okay, some people are like, oh, we've been poor for so long, we don't even know where to start. Okay, well, look, you know what? You have to find opportunities to, in this case, get an education. Go and get a trade and skill. There's nothing wrong with this, okay? There's no reason that the poverty deficit and the education deficit, obviously, work together, okay? There are a lot of people that if you take the education deficit and the poverty deficit, you can see why poverty exists in America. So start there, okay? Well, structure a family. Well, I would be honest with you. If you have a domestic violence situation, which is a symptom of poverty in America, because any poor man or poor woman would not turn to domestic violence. They feel no choice. This is the way of life. They've had to accept it this way. This is the way it is, right? Well, the best way to solve that problem is just don't associate with a person that's abusive. It's that simple. But a lot of people aren't willing to kind of, address that issue. So there are obviously things that you inherited if you've faced poverty every day in America. I can't pretend it. I mean, the reason why a lot of people live on personal debt is because they don't want to be poor. They don't want to have to associate with poverty. What you really don't want to associate, poverty is not the biggest issues. You don't want to associate with abusive people and people that live unsanitary conditions, which should be everybody's issue. I don't know anyone, poor or not, that want to be around abusive people. They don't choose to, or live in the most dilapidated conditions and unsanitary conditions, but it's a reality. So you look at I've been around plenty of people, and they don't even have the basic sanitary conditions. I really don't have an issue if people want to live in a mobile home or a small cheap apartment or live off the grid. Sanitary conditions are sanitary conditions. The way out of poverty may start if you have to live in a tent. Hey, it is what it is. But your goal is not to stay there. For some people it might be, but I'm not sure. But listen, this is what's going on in your urban neighborhoods, and it's a spillover, and everyone pays for it out of taxes. At least that's the reality in Pennsylvania. Does it have to stay that way? No. We're hoping that Trump's plan will play a big factor in how we work today and how we get an education. Can we turn this around? I do think you have a window of opportunity. I don't think it's in God's plan to let his people go without. And there's a scripture in the Bible that says in 2 Chronicles 7:14, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, then I will hear from heaven and heal their land. Humble themselves. How many people are willing to humble themselves, admit that they have a problem, that they've been living on credit, or they've ignored the poverty issue, or they've been part of the problem. They've been the abusers and users and, copping for the drugs. I don't know. You have to decide. You're going to hear accepting responsibility means apologizing, accepting responsibility, repenting, and then doing something to change it, because everyone has an opportunity to operate from a clean slate. If you repent and you go to God and you hit your knees and say, Lord, I'm part of the problem, not the solution, then you have a chance. Because part of that prayer says you have to humble yourself, and that means admitting that you did something, you played a role in it. And accepting responsibility. If everyone took personal responsibility for these problems, a lot of our problems wouldn't even exist. If we take personal responsibility and we look at the mail that's coming in, which is hard to do anymore, but when you realize that, we have creditors calling, most of our problems can be answered by opening up our books and saying, okay, we're going to look at this, and we're going to tackle this a little at a time. No, I don't think that most of us are going to tackle the big problems right away. I do believe that when you have an answer and a solution and you live in reality, not the false reality of TV projecting that somehow this is not the reality. This is a reality. Urban housing is a reality. Most of these men and women that have health issues, this is their future. They won't be able to afford to keep the things they have at the rate things are going, because you have illness and disease. And it's not just a systematic issue. It happens in every family. I mean, it can make and break a family when somebody, especially the breadwinner, gets sick, and or even in some cases has to be turned over to a personal care home. I work in a personal care home. I see a lot of people who would normally be poor or left into the hands of the system, but this is the reality. And it talk about planning. Talk about this. Look at this. So you don't have to be reduced to unsanitary conditions like some of these personal care agencies are. When people look at the unsanitary conditions and the level of poverty that goes on in your community, in some of your homes, you'll be like, okay, this is bigger than me. Yeah, maybe own a cleaning business, whatever. I mean, copying for drugs is copying for drugs. This is one of the career options. It shouldn't be that way, but it is. And more of those kids are going into incarcerated, while the other crimes are being ignored, like the big ones, the trafficking, sex abuse, and then prostituting children. In fact, you don't have to wait for anyone to fix your problems if you have the power back to do it. And the advantage for somebody who's, had to live in urban housing or poverty, or had to confront abusive people, whether it be a man or woman, because it go both ways nowadays. The advantage is that you don't have to stay there. You have some options, and having choices and options, meaning you might have to take a second job. You might have to take classes a couple days a week, but it's a little at a time. Actually, it took me 20 years to get 4 years of education. I did it part-time, and I'm still not where I need to be. But I'm not sitting here patting myself on the back at all. I just see it for what it is. To me, instead of trying to pretend it away, I just have to confront it and move forward. Here's my point. It looks glamorous, and it does seduce children at a younger age that, wow, this might be a way out. But here's the thing. You don't want that to be your option, okay? If you have the opportunity to go to school and even take 1 or 2 classes, you don't have to go get a 4-year degree. Some people are looking at the military as an option, serving the military. I don't know. I mean, personally, I would just look at it this way. Taking 1 or 2 classes after you graduate high school is a start. Some people bite off more than they can chew. That's why in debt to their ears. So, I mean, they'll tell you themselves that college debt sucks. And reality is that you don't want to have to grow up in a neighborhood where there aren't options, and there are a bunch of losers that abuse people and take advantage of people. They are shady characters. That's the reality that some of you kids grew up in. Some of the reality we grew up in about the shady characters we had to be around. So, you do have some options, but just don't bite off more than you can chew. And start somewhere. Just try to get a job or something over their heads. Actually, if you want my personal opinion, I know there's people that have a history of abusing certain people, so I don't want to give out advice and tell you guys to go out and work for somebody, especially if you don't know what kind of shady characters there are, because there's plenty of these shady characters that take advantage of people and families, especially in a crisis, and that really jacks me up, because it's not just an urban issue. It happens in your suburban communities, actually more so. It's just some people hide it better, and word of mouth is word of mouth. You know what I mean? People talk, and that's the way to get things. Don't wait for the internet superhighway to do it. You could just talk to your neighbors. You don't need to post it on Twitter or Facebook. You just talk to your neighbors. There's plenty of people who are more effective than Twitter and Facebook combined. All you have to do is tell some of the people that I know, and word gets around, and you can tell that the shady characters are at it again. Yeah, we are more effective than Facebook, Twitter combined. I promise you that. Thank you.